Wait, ticked there. Hi, and welcome to the Wake.Show. I'm Fisher. Happy Friday, everybody. Say hi, Alex.
Hi.
We will come back to Alex here momentarily, but on today's show, we have Alex Wilkinson. And the reason that I'm having her on the show is because we live in interesting times, and I'm running into more and more people, young adults, even older adults as well, who are not living traditional lives, not doing what we were supposed to do. And so she traveled Europe by herself for 31 days, 37 days?
53.
That's what I said, 53 days. And so we'll talk to her about her adventures. Also coming up on the show today, Chris McCarty will be coming back in here. Why? Well, for a very important reason. Because, let's see here. That's the camera I want. Because it's my 1-year wedding anniversary coming up this weekend. And I'm having some issues with what I want to put together, and I'm not allowed to spend over $50, so that really limits me. And so he called me yesterday and said, listen, man, you and I have always talked about writing a song together. How about I come in your show and live together, we will write a song for your wife. So that's why he's coming back. Also, our good friend and artist Cam Parker will be stopping by the show at noon too. He just hit me up and said, hey man, is it okay if I pop by? And when it comes to Cam Parker, it is always okay for him to pop by because he is just a ball of positive energy, and I love having that on the show. So we'll get to stuff you should know today as well. Let me show you some of the things that we will be covering in Stuff You Should Know. We'll pop that up here. You can take a gander at that as I introduced you to our first guest today, and that is Miss Alex Wilkinson. How are you, ma'am?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for stopping by the studio today. And I just met you for the first time just now, but was hooked up with you through our mutual friend, Jonny Torres.
Yeah, Jonny.
For those of you that are new to the show, Jonny is the person that I started this show with a couple of months ago. He got an offer by Marco Rubio to go work for, not for his campaign, not to go help him get reelected the next time he runs, but to cover six districts here in South Florida. So when you're calling your congressman or you're calling your senator and bitching about something, it's Jonny that's taking your phone call now. So tell me how you met Jonny.
I've known Jonny for, about 7 years. I met him through Ad to Tampa Bay, the advertising world. He's been a good friend of mine ever since. And so I'm thrilled that we made this connection.
All right. Well, going to your Facebook page, that's a shot, obviously, of, hold on, let me guess, because I am not a traveled person. I'm not
okay.
worldly.
That's all right.
That is, hold on, I know. It's, damn it.
Venice.
That's what I was going. That's what I was going for.
Yeah. That actually, I took that shot myself. That's actually the Rialto Bridge, and it's a very famous bridge right there in Venice, Italy.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. Let me go ahead and break a rule right now and ask you how old you are. How old are you?
That's okay. I'm 33.
You're 33 years old.
Yes. Yes.
So you're not 20. So I would have guessed 23, 24.
You're so sweet. No.
Well, not only that, but when you see people do something like this, it's usually because they're young. They're just coming out of their parents' house or college, and they've got some money to burn, and so they go travel 53 days around Europe.
Exactly.
But to do that in your 30s, that's a completely different ballgame. Is there a story that sets this up?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Let me guess. A breakup.
Yes. Usually with every, if you ever see the Eat, Pray, Love or the Wilds of the world, they're rare. Women of my age doing this is a rare story. And usually, absolutely, there's usually a catalyst. And for me, yes, it was a breakup. I was newly single and wanted, waited my whole life to go to Venice and wanted to go with a partner and realized, why should I wait? Why should I wait for a man to go with me? Why don't I go by myself?
Is there a photo album, by the way, I could be clicking through?
Sure.
If I click your photos.
Actually, if you go down a little bit, the album for the whole thing is public there on Facebook, so it should be right.
All right. So if I click on your albums there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it should say right on there, England, Italy, and France. Should be right on there.
England, Italy. There it is. England, Italy, and France. So when did you go? You're just coming back from this adventure?
Yes. Yep. I left September 23rd, and I came back November 14th.
Did you? Let me ask you this question: did you ever see the movie Taken?
Oh yes.
Okay. Was that in your head at all while you were touring around?
It was in my head every single day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, did you ever? Did you have that? I don't want to say stereotypical moment, but that moment where a couple of guys pull up on a moped and say, "Hey, we'll show you around the city."
Not quite, but I did have some scary moments. A couple over in Europe, specifically in Venice. I would probably say my scariest moment was Halloween night. I was in Venice, Italy.
This one yours or mine?
That one's yours.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
I was in Venice, Italy. It was Halloween night. It was dark. I took a ghost tour that night, which was so much fun. I'm a big Halloween ghost person and love horror movies and all of that. And so it was late at night. It was dark. And I was with a group of people in the evening walking all through Venice, looking at the haunts and the scary parts of Venice.
And then it got really scary.
Well, and then it was weird because, it was very cognizant of like where I was living, where my hotel room was in comparison to everything else, being a single woman. So this ghost tour started 5 minutes after 5 minutes away from my hotel.
Okay.
Perfect, right? It ended 25 minutes away from my hotel at almost 11 o'clock at night on Halloween night in Venice. And in October, that's off season. So it was extremely desolate. Now, go with me here. There's no Uber. There's no taxis. This is a city that's on water.
Okay. Well, there's water taxis, right?
Yeah, but my hotel wasn't like the only way for me to get to my hotel was through dark alleyways at night. And it's funny because, Chris, when you're in that situation and you're in a foreign country, it's dark, you're alone. There was nobody to help me. Sure, I could have called my mom and been like, "Mom, but nobody could help me. I couldn't really hop on a water taxi because it wasn't going to get me to where I needed to go.
Do you have any pictures of the dark alleys here in your folder?
I do. Of course, I have so many. A lot of that that you're seeing is England. Okay. But if you go further down, there are some pictures of the dark alley. Sorry, there's so many pictures that I took.
No, that's all right. So anyway, so it's a 25-minute walk. You're very nervous, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I'm going through dark alleys, and there are men walking towards me, and literally all they would have had to have done.
Hello, tell us about this picture.
That was in London. I actually partied hard that night. I had a good time that night.
What's partying hard in England?
Well,
does that mean the ecstasy was being brought out and
no, there's a tremendous amount of alcohol.
Mushrooms? Oh, okay.
Tremendous amount of alcohol. The English can drink and they hold their drink. And we had a great time. That was actually I partied with my family that night. It was a good time.
Oh, all right. So now I'm getting to the Venice pictures here. Oh, oh my gosh, these are beautiful. Holy smokes.
These were all taken by me. And
so the back alleys of Venice, are they flooded with water as well?
A lot of them, yeah. I mean, it's all canal.
Oh, I thought I was being a smart
ass. Oh, okay, no, it's all water. Everywhere is water, but the back alleys were very dark, and there were men walking towards me, and all they would have had to have done is pull me into another alley.
Right.
I mean, nobody would have known. But I ended up getting home fine. But I remember there was a time where I thought to myself, just please let me get home. Just let me get to my hotel safe. Like it was kind of weird.
All right, but nothing happened. All right, good. So that was the scariest. That was the worst of it.
Well, and I was stranded in Milan at night. That was an interesting story.
I would imagine.
Trying to get to Lake Como, and my train broke.
Your train broke?
Yep. I had to get to Como, and I had to...
So all these adventures start off okay. A 5-minute walk from your house turns into a 25-minute walk back. The beginning of this trip, the train you think is a good idea, but then it breaks on you.
Yep. Yeah.
But you made it your 53 days unscathed.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, so I would imagine you have some positive stories to share with us. Well, we'll get to it here in just a couple seconds, but I want to learn a little bit more about you, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Because we live in very interesting times.
Yes.
There's a growth spurt, I think. There's a growth spurt in humanity.
Right.
And for some people, it's painful. It hurts, and they're scared. They're lashing out, or they're circling the wagons psychologically, or with their own family, with their own cultures. Mm-hmm. And for others, it is a time of of learning and exploring, and be able to do things. Because if we go back not that long ago, I mean, 100 years, a woman could, it would be very difficult to wander around Europe for 53 days by herself. Those scenarios you set up might have turned out very differently. Now, there's still parts of the world, obviously, where if you're wandering around like that, horrible things are going to happen. But we live in such amazing times. Now, how did you get up? Are you naturally a courageous person? Like if I go to talk to your friends and family, we go, "Oh, this is, of course, Alex. This does not surprise us at all."
Yes, they would all say that.
All right.
Yes.
Are you aware enough to know how special times that we live in, that people, that kids or adults can wander around or a lot of the planet, experience these amazing things, and do it freely?
Yeah, no, well, and that's kind of why I think this story is so important, because I think there's a lot of people who think that this is crazy, and who couldn't do it or wouldn't think they'd be able to do it. And I kind of want to show people that you can be 33, own a home, have a business, and have responsibilities, and you can make these things happen for yourself.
Tell me about this gondola driver here. He looks like a character.
Well, actually, the one on the left, that's the Venetian in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's not even...
So he was
That's
a character.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and the reason why I posted that was because at the time, that was the closest I was going to get to Venice.
I'm such a moron. Such a moron. I'm so not cultured. That's another thing. It fascinates me. I mean, there's a part of me that's envious, that's jealous, that we do live in these times. Like, I have a good friend of mine. His name is Jonny Griffin, and he is my age. Grew up in the Gainesville area, Ocala, and he is off on his own adventure. He quit his job. He was a sales guy in radio, doing advertising and marketing, doing very, very well for himself.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about this. How did you fund this? What was your job situation at the time?
Sure. No. So it kind of originally it started out. I was just going to go to Venice, maybe do a 2-week Mediterranean cruise, and I set up a savings fund, just for my travels. And then, this is, I don't know your beliefs, but the universe or whatever, I believe.
I'm a universe kind of guy.
When you're meant to do something, the things just come to you. And this just manifested itself so beautifully into my life. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this situation, but they're called workaways or HelpX. They're workaway opportunities where you can volunteer your time, and in exchange you get free room and board.
Okay. Do you have to get special visas for that? Do they consider that work? Like, get work permit, or no? This is kind of like is it an under the table kind of a thing?
No. It's a volunteer situation. Completely volunteer. No contracts. So you only need like your
regular visa.
No, I mean, I didn't need a visa.
Okay.
You actually, as long as you're away from if you're an American citizen and you have an American passport, you can travel for 90 days without a visa. I'm actually a dual national, so I'm a British and
the hell does that mean?
I'm an American and a British citizen.
No kidding.
Yep. So
how does that work, and how did you were you born in England or something?
I was born in America, but my parents are English.
All right.
Both my parents.
So that automatically made you a dual citizen?
Mm-hmm. Well, your parents have to fill out some paperwork for you, but yes.
Oh, interesting. What does that mean? Does it give you any special perks in the world?
Well, until Brexit goes into effect, I am a full European citizen that can work and live in Europe at any time. Obviously, as a British citizen, I can live in England or work in England without any.
Oh, the Brits screwed themselves on that one, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. I guess we'll see. I don't know. Do you like talking politics? And well, let's segue right into that then.
Okay.
Well, no, because now I'm skipping over something. I do want to talk about what you guys talked about with when you're sitting there. With the locals, are you getting a hotel room every single day, or?
Oh, no. So I spent about 3 weeks in England, and of course I have family there. So I went all over England living with my family.
All right. Okay.
When I went to Italy, I lived with a local family there in Italy, right there outside of Venice, and I nannied their children for a few hours a day, and in exchange, I had free room and board. And that enabled me to travel. I did have hotels, and I just want to make it clear to especially single women who are traveling, you can get single rooms at hotels, which means you get a single bed. They are substantially less money, and I actually had the most amazing hotel rooms. When I went to Florence, I stayed in a hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with Florence, but the Duomo is the most famous kind of landmark there.
Listen, darling, I'm born and reared in this fine state as a kid. I loved our vacations as a child. It was always visiting my grandmother in Western New York. And it was a farm, a 1,000-acre farm. So that was awesome. We'd spend 2 weeks up there. Mm-hmm. But that was the extent of our our journeys, our travels as a family, as a child. Now, as an adult, I don't have any excuses. I'm 45 now. I can't blame my parents this kind of stuff. My traveling began in my 30s, and what I did for my birthday in my 30s is I visited someplace I'd never been before.
Nice.
31, 32. So I turned 30 in New Orleans, 31 in New York, 32 in LA, 33 in Vegas, 34 in Chicago. And there was also, there was Denver, Toronto. There was a couple others sprinkled in there as well. But those were all within the United States. And I don't regret it because there is so much to learn and know about your own and visit. Absolutely. Right here. I mean, now I want to go visit all these places that I didn't think, like Wisconsin.
Yep.
And because you see, I think it's the Devil's Mount or something like that in Wisconsin, that huge. Yep. There's just beautiful areas all across America. So I don't regret that at all. But I definitely, it's not going to happen. No, I just got married and we're getting ready to start a family. So my
congratulations.
Thank you. So my journeys overseas will probably be put off for a little while. So I'm sorry for turning this back on me. It's so great to see people out there traveling and doing this. And like I said, my buddy Jonny Griffin, who's given up everything and is tooling around, and he's doing charity wherever he goes. He's hooked up with a charity organization, so he's living out of a van that he's done up, and you
can make that happen for yourself.
All right. So we were just real quickly. Then how did you fund it? 53 days couldn't have been.
Sure.
Cheap.
So the majority of the time I was actually living rent free.
I
did huge. About 18 of the days I was in hotels, but I stayed in single occupancy hotels. I rented out my house. That was the main thing. I rented out my own house for
back here in the States.
Yep. Okay. It's still rented. And
okay, so that's smart. That's like a little business plan going into this.
Sure, and that just fell into my lap as well. They needed it for these people needed it right around the time I needed to go to Venice, and it all worked out. So
let's see if let's put you. Yeah, there we go. Well, I don't know if I put you on the split screen if I can show enough of the pictures here.
This is London. London was fantastic.
Yeah. I have never even been to London. I've been to Ireland. Thank you, but it wasn't because of me. It was because of Jameson.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing. It was for work basically. So a couple years in a row, got an opportunity to go to Dublin, which is awesome. But yeah, so I'm very envious of you, and people like you. Let's talk a little bit about you that I meant to set up a while back. And that is, I see you are a dog mom.
Yes.
You are a dog mom. So that makes me like you automatically.
Yes.
Tell me about your dog. I wish I had a picture. Oh, I'm sure there's pictures here I could find.
Yeah, there's plenty. She has a whole album.
Yeah, she has her own album.
But my dog is Phoebe. She is going to be 12 years old this year. She is the love of my life. And she's just 12. A beautiful. She's a pug. And she's getting old, so I'm getting a little bummed about it. But she's great, and
let's see. All right, now I'm back at your albums here. As soon as I see that little pug face, I'm gonna go pull her up. Phoebe, you said?
Yep.
Was she named?
The album should say My Phoebe.
Were you a big fan of Friends back in the day?
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. All right, so it's called My Phoebe. I guess you can't just search these things, can you?
Yeah, it should be there.
My Phoebe. There it is. Oh, look at that face.
There she is. Of course, that was her younger days.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah. Yeah, she I actually trained her all the way to do agility. So she actually jumped through hoops and
oh my gosh.
Yeah. She's old now.
Does she have that?
Oh, she sneezes, she snorts, she snores. She's fantastic.
I felt bad.
Yeah, she's fantastic. That's my sister holding her down there.
That's a great photo.
Yeah. She's probably going to hate me that she's... Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, she's great.
All right, so your dog... So I saw you also when I was perusing, I was stalking you on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, stalk away.
I noticed you just watched the movie Jigsaw.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
So, Jigsaw, is that like one of the later movies in the Saw series?
That is.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a big horror movie lover.
That's like a really recent one, isn't it?
Yeah, it just came out. It came out a few months ago, around Halloween, of course. And yeah, it's the final chapter. Well,
yeah,
I never
all
say
of them
never.
in final
Never
chapter.
say never, but it's supposed to be,
I thought the final chapter was like somewhere around 6.
Yeah, well, it's like, I think this is the 8th, if I'm counting correctly. So.
And also, it's not the original producers anymore, right? They've sold all that stuff, or is it still the same guys making?
I don't know if you've heard, but James Wan he's like a legend right now in the horror. He actually came up with the original Saw, and he's done The Conjuring, he's done Annabelle.
It sounds like we've got somebody in here who's a movie buff. Mm-hmm. I got to get Roy. I don't know if Roy is going to be. Oh, that's I left the studio door open. Well, it's welcoming. Anybody that wants to wander in today and be part of the conversation, they're more than welcome. They're more than welcome. Well, Roy, do you know? Since you know a couple people here, do you know Roy?
No, I don't. I'd love to meet him.
So Roy is he is our film guru here at Bake More Pies. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of the editing and he does everything, in that category. So he comes in on Fridays and sits right where you are there and talks about movies. But I don't know that he can come in today because I think they have an official shoot going on downstairs.
Okay.
And so he's probably a part of that. So I'm gonna have to use you if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
All right. Well, then go ahead then and let's talk more about Jigsaw.
Okay.
This is supposed to be the final. You saw it last night, and did it live up to the hype? Does it tie? Does it bring everything? Because I thought they brought everything together like around 6, brought everything together.
Yes, I don't want to give too much away. It does kind of tie it all together. There's a big twist at the end that's a little confusing, in my opinion. I was kind of like, what? I'm not a big gore fan, so I typically don't watch all the torture horror movies, but I actually didn't find this one super gory. So, there was gore, of course.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff.
But yeah, it was great. If you like it, yeah.
All right. Then what about some movies that are out now? Or maybe some of the movies that got were nominated for Oscars. Did you see any of those?
I did, yeah. The Post, which has Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and of course Steven Spielberg directed.
And The Post, that's about the Washington Post around the time of
the 1950s.
Okay.
That was, it was basically, it's actually very relevant to what's happening right now in our time, because it's really about the ethics of journalism and how it relates to the people who are reading, and then of course the government. In that situation, the government wanted to keep some things hush hush. A woman had control of the paper at the time, and she was having to make big decisions in a room full of big men, and that was a very interesting, I love that movie. I think that's a great movie.
Which brings us to one of the stories I have today for stuff you should know, and then that is after the State of the Union, which I guess by all accounts, I didn't watch it. I don't know if you did or not.
I did not watch it either.
But the president's numbers shot up some. Rasmussen Report's daily presidential tracking poll for Friday shows President Trump making substantial gains after Tuesday's State of the Union speech and achieving his highest voter approval since March of last year. And that is 49% of likely U.S. voters approve of the president's job performance. Another 49% disapprove. So it's a split there, but that's good because his numbers were. And again, we can talk politics right now, but I just want you to know where I come from when it comes to politics. And I know I'm getting ready to bore all of you with this again. I'm no party affiliation. All right. If you're going to put me in the cat, if we're going to sit, I hate the left wing, right wing crap that we are constantly bombarded with. Like there's only 2 choices in the world, and so I guess if you're going to talk in those terms, then I am a centrist. All right, so I'm coming from that point of view. Okay. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, I get why there's so many people out there that are scared out of their minds. I also get why there's a lot of people who are very excited about what's going on. And to me, he is a very interesting character in history. And you're a witness. You're living it. So if you can remove yourself emotionally from it, then I think we live in very interesting times as far as that's concerned. I'm not trying to give him a pass on all the stuff that he says and does, and I'm not trying to defend it. But I'm also not going to go out of my way to start knocking him down too much, because one of the opinions that I have is that if we were to pull back the curtain and got the real view of a lot of the presidents we've had in our past, they would make you just as angry if you're somebody who is angry at the things that are going down right now. So that's kind of where I stand, and I find it fascinating that he's at 49%. So let me turn. I hope I'm going to turn the lens now onto you, my guest.
Okay.
How do you see things?
This is you talk about interesting times. I didn't have a chance to say this, but advertising is my background. Social media is my specialty. So, to see a president so open, especially on the social media front, I've been saying for a while now that elections are made on social media. And I think Donald Trump, the president, he's an expert marketer. He's expert at marketing himself. He does it every day. And as somebody who's a professional in the business, he's changing everything. He's changing how we communicate as a country. 10 years ago, we couldn't have this direct access with our president like we do now.
One of the ways that I described it, because some people might come back and go, yeah, he's changing things for the worst. There's steps backs in this and this and this. That I guess it remains to be seen. But one of the ways that I see it, I was using this analogy before he became president. This was kind of my hope after he was elected, was fracking. How they stick these big hoses or these whatever into the earth, and then they inject all this pressure and gas chemicals, and then it
agitates it.
Right, and it feeds into the cracks. Those cracks give way and release the gas up to the surface. So that's what I was kind of hoping, is people were talking about him being a disruptor in Washington, him shaking things up, and it's not that I was sitting there defending the guy and go, no, he's definitely going to do this, man. Watch. It was more of I think because of his personality and because of he is so egocentric, that he doesn't give a shit. No. He doesn't give a shit. So he's going to get in there, and I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, because then you can argue, well, fracking, all of a sudden you turn on your water and there's fire coming out of it. I get it. What I'm hoping is that in the short term, the uncomfortableness that is permeating our globe now because of our president turns into something positive. There is we only have to deal with that in a short term, or the world does, but there will be something good that comes out of that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that is, I'm not trying to sell anybody on my opinion when it comes to that.
It's already happening. You're seeing it with the Me Too movement, very loud and clear right now. But yeah, you're already seeing it. People are becoming, just like you said, that agitation that, it's permeating. And I think it's going to, my hope is just like yours. I'm hoping that this is going to create great change in this country.
Because, Washington was broken, or is broken, or maybe we shouldn't use the term broken, but needs to be looked at, needs to be serviced, okay? Let's not say that the block has blown in the engine, but that it's just been a long time and it needs to get into the service station and spend a couple of days there, what I mean? And get all the gook out of it. And listen, this is partly based too on my views of Washington being validated when I read a piece by Jimmy Carter, all right, from the other side of the aisle, going back a couple years ago, but really only like 2 years. And it was about what Washington has become, what the federal government has become, this oligarchy, and it's about passing power from one person to the other, and all the stuff that comes along with it, all the money, all the everything that comes along with it. So we need somebody to get in there and F things up, I think, and this guy seems to be shaking things up. Again, I don't know if it's going to, because I can't predict whether this is going to be good or bad because he might shake things up and then all of a sudden the foundation fall at. But But I'm okay with that too, and the reason being is if our government or our everything, our structure, our foundation here is that weak, well, then we need to know now. Right. You could break it now so we can deal with it now. Otherwise, you're leading to a potentially worse and worse and worse circumstance down the road. So, which I think we're fine. I think that George Washington, Jefferson, Franklin, all those guys in the beginning that had had a vision of America. I think they were onto something, and we are going to be more than fine. But that's just. By the way, I'm sorry that I've got a guest in here, and I'm getting on some kind of a political, tirade here. But I'm just focusing on those people who don't like what's going on, or are scared of what's happening. But you have another part of the country, where another 49% who are are looking at their 401ks right now and looking at what's at, the taxes and so on and so on. And they're very happy. They're very excited. I just saw another article this morning about how Ford their $90,000 SUVs are selling like hotcakes, which is an indicator that those people who do have wealth, who do have money, are excited, are happy. They're out there spending on that kind of stuff. So, there's a lot to this story. There's definitely a lot to the story. You brought up the Me Too movement. You're a female. Yeah, you're a female. Yeah. How do you see this? Because there's a lot of layers to this too.
Absolutely, and I think there's a tremendous amount of brave women right now who are standing up for all of us. And I've worked in business now for 11 years, and I've been affected by it myself. There have been times where I have, many times, unfortunately, where I have been approached and said things, and men have said things and alluded to things.
Men that had power over you at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I've actually, it's affected parts of my career at times, unfortunately. And it's an unfortunate situation. And, of course, as a young woman in a business who maybe just started a new job, or, you just stay quiet because you need your job. You need to pay your bills, And so what I'm seeing now is especially even with Oprah, I'm sure you saw that, the whole world kind of saw her stand up there and Time's Up and all that. And it's a brave thing. It's a good thing. I think everyone needs a voice. And I think that, times are changing just by the way that we're talking right now. You and I are talking all over the country right now,
because there's once this Weinstein story broke, everything came flooding through that hole, including just very simple flirting at work, and I'm not talking about flirting between boss and subordinate. I'm talking about flirting between, even that stuff's on the table too.
Well, and that's a double-edged sword. Because, I met somebody very important to me at work. And
a lot of people do.
A lot of people do. And so where's the line? And, so
well, that's why we're having this. Yeah. It's not that you and I have to sit down today, or
fix it,
or Oprah and Donald Trump have to sit down today.
Right.
And then they have a half an hour conversation, then turn to the cameras and go, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we fixed. This is what we're going to do from now on. The whatever's going to happen that comes out of this will likely be a move forward. It seems like. I know there's a backlash too.
Yeah.
That's coming with this. So the F1 Grid Girls.
Yep.
The F1 Grid Girls, and this is Formula One racing.
Yep, Formula One racing. I'm actually a fan.
All right, you're a fan of this. Well, part of their tradition, just like in football with cheerleading, are these Grid Girls that stand there and be hot,
well, yeah, and of course they would say otherwise. I was reading about this morning. Yes, they do stand next to the cars. They're wearing the paraphernalia of the team. They have, they're just like the cheerleaders or the girls that are in the ring at the boxing matches. I mean, that they're part of the culture. And today they've all lost their jobs. These F1 Grid Girls are no longer. So
that was interesting. The Grid Girls, well, they decide to go. They go, well, this is obvious. This is just sexism. We're just this. It's pretty obvious what this is.
Of course.
But you have a very interesting take on this, and that is that these are jobs now. These women now don't have jobs, and maybe their skill is this. They're models.
Well, and they a lot of them were talking about how A, this is their job, and B, this opportunity has led them to other things. And my question is, well, I'm not saying that we need to objectify women or anything like that, but my question is, what about the NFL cheerleaders? What about?
I feel the same way.
I mean,
they're out there.
They're out there doing a job, and people are enjoying them. And especially in F1, it's very obviously male dominated. We're talking motors, we're talking grease,
right,
we're talking
competition.
Oil, competition, and then you have. You can't have the light without the dark. Then there's the women. There's this part of it that is it's just a part of their culture. It's a part of what it is.
All right. So obviously then it doesn't strike you, it doesn't offend you at all when you look out there and it's just, hourglass figures standing there being, hot. and that's it.
And for me, no, because I would have to say that the NFL cheerleaders offend me, and I don't find them offensive at all either.
See, I guess because when you break down, what we're talking about here, where you talk about football, and that is, where these games come from is when there's not war. These are simulated war games, going way back. They're very tribal. We've been doing stuff like this for thousands upon thousands of years. And with that competition and the dominance and that warring is afterwards, you grab your woman and you bang the crap out of her. You get that release. That release, comes after the battle.
Sure.
So it makes perfect sense how we got here. Perfect sense how we got here. You've got the men out on the field. They are warring back and forth. And then you got the females on the side shaking their ass, shaking their tail feather. And when but here's what should happen. At the end of the game, the guys playing should go over, they should all meet and have an orgy there in the middle of the field and, and play and do this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we'd have a lot more people trying to be football players.
That's I don't know what that hashtag movement would be. Me too. And me too. But now fast forward, we're not in, this isn't, 3000 BC.
Right.
So we are having these conversations now because how much of that kind of stuff, our tribal past, our warring nature, the dominance of our environment, the dominance of everything around you, how much of that do we hold on to moving forward as humanities? Because now you look down on the field and this is what it is. It's to play into a certain part of a guy's psyche.
The caveman mentality.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know if it's caveman stuff, but it does go way back. So we get to live out the war part of things and the competition that are dominating our environment, simulated out on the field there, and at the same time glance over and see some 18-year-old girl shaking her ass and go, oh, yeah.
Right.
So I know that it is a part of us. How much then this is what this conversation is about. How much do we play into it? F1 is saying no more here. NFL, you can do whatever you want, but F1 no longer.
Right. Yeah. No. Here's the thing that I struggle with is because I do not believe we should objectify women. I believe that now we are.
But that's what this is.
But unless
you can convince me you see it differently.
Well, and this is what I think, that now we have to start looking at the modeling industry. What's the difference then? What's the difference between the model industry, because cheerleaders will tell you, well, it's my sport and I'm an athlete. That's what the cheerleaders will say to you.
Yeah,
the women, the F1 women are saying, well, wait a second, this was my job and this is how I fed my children and
Stockholm syndrome.
I supported a team.
It's Stockholm syndrome. It's like a stripper. Yeah, the same thing. You're like, well, listen, if you were, you're sitting there shaking your ass to make money, but I think if you probably had a choice, or if you go back, maybe I'm wrong. Well, maybe I have the wrong view on all this.
Well, and this is where it gets a little confusing because now we're looking at the sexualization of women. We're looking at women as sexual beings, and is that bad? And that's a little scary because how far do we take this? Like, I know that we all want to be equal. I definitely want to be, seen as an equal to my peer at work, my male coworker. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of power in women and us being beautiful and strong and courageous and brave. And, can we do that as being cheerleaders on the sideline and also being CEOs in the office? And
that's tough because
tricky.
The woman might go, hey, well, listen, being a cheerleader, there's nothing sexual about it at all.
Right.
And it is my sport, and I completely get it from their vantage point. And that's fine. but the reality is once you start, whether it's dancing, and then you start those motions, you are playing into ancient feelings. We're playing into ancient parts of our brains. So when you go, I should be able to shake my ass in front of a crowd of men and not have that reaction begin to take place in their head.
Right.
It's going to. Now we've evolved. We're no longer the monkeys we once were, but we are still great apes.
Right.
And so then that's the challenge. And as the brain starts to kick in and we start to go, we have to go, wait, hold on. Go get me another beer or whatever that.
And this is where it gets tricky with that Me Too movement as well, because it's like, well, now if I see a coworker that sits next to me at work that I really enjoy, are we not allowed to flirt? Are we not allowed to move on with a relationship?
Right.
Is that now off the table? and that starts getting.
It's not off the table. It's just that dynamic is changing. We're gonna have to think a little bit more before we act, which is not a bad thing. Which is not a bad thing at all. Cords, how you doing, buddy?
Excellent. How are you all?
All right, so let me. We'll just go ahead and get off this subject. We'll go ahead and change it up. I was going to read a little something here because somebody had said, Cam, come on, kick those pillows. You go grab your water there. I think you just hit a water back there.
I don't want
There's a dog here.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Well, all right. Let's see here.
I'm a dog mom.
She is a dog, but she loves. You know what, Cam? Just go ahead and hop on the couch here. All right? Go ahead. And
Hi, sweetie.
And there you go. Hi. And Cam, I got a microphone rigged up behind you there. Just go ahead and turn that on. That's awesome.
I sound really hoarse right now.
So, well, you stop it.
But I always do. So
you stop it, Cam.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Cam, nice to meet you.
Cam. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
There you go.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Matter of fact, you're probably gonna have to bring that around him there and have him set that the base on his left thigh, and that way when he's turning this way, his left thigh.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That'll work.
Cool.
There we go.
Hey.
Cam Parker, welcome in. And I guess you've already introduced yourself to Alex there. Cam Parker is an artist here in the Bay Area.
Awesome.
What does Alex do?
Well, I just traveled. We're talking about. I just traveled the world for 53 days.
Oh, and then it's just me on the couch. Okay, wow.
Stop, Cam. Stop.
That's awesome.
Everybody has a story. You know?
I love that.
Everybody has a story.
But yeah.
What was your? Tell me. I know you guys just talked about
we
it.
talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I wanted to go to Venice, and it turned into something way bigger than I ever expected, and I ended up living with the locals in Italy and going to France and going to England, and
okay, that's how you travel.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, Cam, we were talking how we live in these times where it wasn't that long ago. There's no way that a single woman could just pick up and go and travel and live in strangers' houses,
hands down,
for 53 days.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well, Cam hit me up this morning and said, "Hey, man, hey, you mind if I pop in today?"
Yeah.
Of course. And we have an open door policy, which literally the door was open today.
He just walked in with the dog.
For Cam Parker.
Who is this?
Her name is Adele Leather Lipstick.
Adele.
And I wanted to get her out of the house for a little bit, and now she's whining with the microphone in her face.
That's
so
okay.
there's that.
Oh,
She's
Adele!
Yeah,
Can you sing us a song, Adele?
She's
trying.
She's just mad because I put her in this onesie because I wanted her to behave. So she doesn't like doing that. So, yeah.
All right. So just an FYI, I don't have them in here today because they are very stinky. They're getting a bath this weekend, but usually I'll have my little Yorkies in here. So the next time you come by, make sure, or every time you come by, bring Adele.
We can have like multi mascots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Cam, first of all, tell me where you got her backstory, Adele.
I got her from a very dear old friend in Mississippi. She's 6. I've had her since she was maybe like 6 months or so.
She looks like she's well fed.
She is. Yeah. Yep.
She looks like I have a pug. She looks very similar to her.
Yeah, and I actually just shaved her down because I wanted to prove to myself that she wasn't like completely overweight.
Yeah.
And so she's got like 7 coats of hair. So I was like, I'm just gonna shave her because it's getting hot again, and she knows that we're talking about her. So
Dad, quit talking about my weight.
Yeah.
You know I'm sensitive.
But yeah, she's a good puppy, and she's just how like they're all just like way too smart for all of our own good.
Yep.
Like she knows when I'm running the water for my bath and for her bath. Like she knows the difference. So like
my dog knows the time. Like as soon as 5 o'clock hits, it's dinner time.
Yep.
And she'll start barking.
They're smarties.
How
crazy.
I don't even know the time half the time.
Same. I don't know the day half the time.
Right.
So
That is one of my Yorkies, little Roxy McPoopenstein. She no, I mean, I'll tell you what. If I can feel her stirring, and then she starts her stretch over the top of me and starts wagging her tail, and I know that if I look over, it's likely going to be late in the 5 o'clock hour a.m. It's going to be 5:45, 5:55. It's not on the dot every single day.
That's a nice furry alarm clock. I like that. Yeah.
Like, Roxy, can you adjust your clock a little bit and start doing this? And somehow she gets adjusted to the time change too. I don't know how she does it.
Wow.
And then
she's sharp.
Yeah, she needs to switch that up a little bit. Well, Cam hit me up this morning, and said, "Hey, man, you mind if I pop by the studio today?" Was it for anything particular? You just feel like just stopping in and saying hi?
I'm actually getting ready to meet with Cords downstairs about the mural workings that's going to be happening downstairs.
Nice.
So, yeah, I was like, let's just like one-stop shop it and come say hi. Yeah,
Alex, how we got to know Cam is he ended up in the newspaper a few months ago. He had done a mural of Lady Gaga.
Oh, nice.
And so he ended up in the paper, and the news was doing some stuff on him because she was coming to town. And I guess the reason that they picked it up, too, is because she had retweeted it. Somebody had sent that. Yeah.
Wow, that's big time.
Yeah.
Where is this mural?
It's over. It's in between. It's on Franklin Avenue, in between Robertson Billiards, and the Hall on Franklin.
Oh, okay. I was just at the Hall in Franklin.
Yep.
That is such a great place. So, like, you did it all by yourself?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I did. We were talking, when I first came, that I really wanted it to look like her and to be her, and I was gonna project it. I was gonna do a sketch, project it onto the wall, and I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. So I literally stuck an 8x10 piece of paper, taped it on the wall, and just like painted from.
You did it freehand?
Yeah.
That is so.
It's behind your head. It's behind your head.
Oh, look at that.
That's something.
That is incredible. You did that freehand?
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
Good for you.
So we brought him in here. It was very early on in this show, and Jonny Torres had seen it, and he's like, "What do you think about getting this guy in here?" I was like, "Do it." So we reached out to him. He came in the studio. He brought a couple of pieces and put behind us and whatnot. And then afterwards, the owner here, Cords, goes, "Hey, man, what do you think about doing a mural here?" He's like, "Let's talk." So you're back to start to. Now, do you have an idea yet?
Yes, we had an initial idea, and we let a little bit of time pass because there was a little bit of traveling on his part, a little bit of traveling on my part, and so I messaged him maybe I think the bottom of last week and was like, okay, fresh idea. And so we kind of batted around a little bit of a mood board and some images, and so we're gonna talk about where we're at now.
A mood board.
Yeah,
I've heard of a vision board, and I've heard of a storyboard. Mm-hmm. What is a mood board?
A mix of the two. A collection of like images, color swatches, things that kind of give you the overall vibe of what a project is gonna be. At least that's what I call it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but
it's used often in. I'm in the marketing advertising world, and it's used often for that. It sets everything up.
Huh.
Make sure you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
All right. So
handy.
Can you share with us any of the concept, or is this one of those things that you have to hold on to until?
No, we want it to be very advertising, kind of agency feeling. The basis and the premise is going to be those like old Norman Rockwell paintings mixed with like 50s and 60s like ads that we're going to kind of turn on their heads a little bit. And
I love it.
We're going to add different cultures. We're going to add different occupations, everything. I want, like you would have like a housewife and she'd be like handing a pie to the husband, and I might even want to do like a house husband handing a pie to the wife with a briefcase.
Love it.
Things like that. People, there's like a
house husband handing a pie to a husband.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
See,
that?
I mean, it's the 90s for God's sake. Like, I mean, it could be anything. So he's really open to all that kind of talk, and so we're gonna bat some more ideas around today. I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we were talking about some of the stuff in the news. Do you get very political at all, or you try to stay out of it? You seem like the kind of guy that stays out of that nonsense.
I have feelings, and I try to stay aware because I'd like to know what's going on, but yeah, I try to step out of it a little bit.
All right. So are you one of those that you have your political views, you like to talk, but it will be amongst your friends and try not mixed company where it can get negative? Well, let's not talk about any specifics. What do you think about the climate, the political climate we're in these days?
A lot of it's kind of like...
Are you excited about what's happening? Do you feel like there are advances, things being pushed forward, or are you nervous? Are you fearful?
No, I'm not fearful at all because because that's just not part of my nature, and so I'm just kind of always hopeful, and I feel like love will win. I feel like equality will win, whatever that means. I don't really honestly care who the president is or who is making these laws or making all these like legislations. I just feel like good is always going to like rise to the top, and that's just.
And Alex, this is why he has an open door policy.
Because survive.
Because he's a positive man. Or
I
at least,
like it. I love it. That's great. I agree.
We need much more of that. Well, let's talk about some scientific breakthroughs. Mm-hmm. All right. Doctors select the first woman to have a 3-person baby.
Wait, what?
No, it's not what you think. It's not what you think.
Okay.
2 women carrying mutations that cause rare genetic disease to undergo radical therapy. This is happening in Newcastle. They've been granted permission to create Britain's first 3-person baby for 2 women who are at risk of passing on devastating and incurable genetic diseases to their children. The green light from the fertility regulator means the doctors will now attempt to make healthy embryos for the women by merging fertilized eggs created through standard IVF and DNA from other female donors. But they've mixed the DNA up there, so it's not a 2-person embryo. It's a 3-person embryo. Now, this isn't about, should we be playing God and stuff like that. This is going back to one of the reasons why I was excited about having Alex in today. And it's the times that we live in. We can focus on all the negatives that are happening. Because it's not necessarily true. I'm going to oversimplify this where, half the world is negative energy, half the world is positive energy. But I bet it's probably pretty close, it's something like that. And so I think we have very little choices in life. I really do.
Agreed.
I think the choices that we make in the moment when we're reacting to something was something we were working on in our heads or in our upbringing and our DNA going way, way back, and we didn't have much of a decision in that moment. But I do think one of the choices that we can make is the things that we choose to focus on day in and day out. As we choose to focus, or as we our brain goes to focus on something negative, we can walk that back and go, wait, hold on. I know there's something there's something positive right there. I'm going to turn my focus there, and then that starts to change everything. So I'm excited about these times we live in. There's a lot of things, yes, that make you nervous. You go, we're living in end times. But there's other things that we look at and go, holy crap. A million years from now, when those are studied, people a million years, we'll just go 1,000. 1,000 years from now, people will be looking back at this time going, man, how cool would it have been to live during the time of Steve Jobs, to live during the time of Einstein, to live during the time of multiple, 3 people babies, when we were first discovering all these things. So
absolutely.
That's why I love this stuff.
Yeah, no, 50 years ago, women didn't have a lot of options to have babies, outside of, traditional ways.
Yeah.
And now women have complete choice. We can have no babies. We can put off having children. We can adopt children. We can foster children. We have, we don't need a husband to have children. We can go out and have children if we want on our very own, on our own timeline.
Yep.
And it's also, talking about this whole Me Too movement, it's changed the dynamic of how women and men have relationships.
Well, when you were touring Europe for those 53 days by yourself, when you were having interactions with people of the opposite sex,
yes,
did you feel like you were in a different culture the way that they were treating you, or did you feel just as the same as you would feel here in America?
Particularly in Italy, I was. The Italian men are very aggressive there. Not like I never felt unsafe at all, but they are very aggressive in how they pursued me. I was very popular in Italy, as you can imagine. Blonde American,
blonde hair, blue eyes, yeah.
And they're very aggressive. They when they see something they like, they immediately go after it. And there was no Me Too worry over there for sure. I was almost every day having to gently.
They're just trying to wear you down, part of the process there.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, listen, sometimes it was very enjoyable. I had a gentleman, wine and dine me with wine and cheese, and, a girl's not going to say no.
No. And that's that's part of the conversation that we're having too, because a lot of, then we had a group of women out of France, professionals, actresses, people with names and clout, release a letter that they, one of those things where they all sign, 100 people, 200 people sign it kind of a thing. And it was saying, hey, be careful with this Me Too movement, because you are going to take away some of the sexual empowerment that women have been working towards, because and this is their argument, the slippery slope here is that we're putting women back into this. They are little, weak, creatures that are supposed to be pure and chaste until they are married off to the man that bought them from their dad. Sorry, I'm getting a little out there. But yeah, they're saying be careful, because if we're going down this path and that you can't act like a human around a woman because she's too frail and she can't take it. You don't make a pass at her. Make sure you ask her first, hey, can I have permission to ask you out? that is going to change everything and not for the better, was their argument on that. I don't know if it's true or not, but
yeah, it's complicated. But I think that the big thing with the Me Too movement is the power struggle.
That's the word.
Yep. Having somebody in power make you feel like now your job or your daily happenings are in jeopardy.
And even if they're not a psychopath who is knowing that they are coercing that person into doing something, but a manager or who really is having these emotions, these feelings about somebody's working with, and he's awkward. Just because somebody's a CEO, just because they are a professional athlete, a celebrity, doesn't mean they're not just as awkward as we are when we're trying to talk to people that we have feelings for.
Right.
So now they're going down that path and going, oh, how do I talk? Should I go, hey, listen, I feel this way. Can I fire you? And then we start dating, all these things.
Right.
But at the same time, he is definitely, or could very well be, putting off that awkward vibe. And she has no idea what's going on in his head.
Well, and I've had this conversation with a very dear friend of mine. Like, okay, so if the man is attractive and he comes on to you at work, that's a good thing, right? Or a woman is going to is
of
a woman.
Course.
But if the man is not ununattractive, now it's
then
like
it's harassment.
Now it's harassment. And and I think when I was in Italy and I was being confronted by men, what? I handled him. I was polite. Thank you very much. Sure, we can have wine, but nothing further. Depending. I always had to think about my safety, things like that. But women are very capable of handling it.
But
it's the work environment that becomes tricky, and because if the CEO says come with me to lunch or dinner,
or I'm going on a business trip and I think there's some people there you'd really like to meet,
right? And then you go, and then all of a sudden now you're in the hotel room. Oh, but you know what? Hey,
you knew what you were getting yourself into when you said yes to this trip. Then all of a sudden you're in an awkward situation. You can't lose your job again.
Yeah. Or all of a sudden, oh, you know what? You're not going to be up for that promotion now. That it's a very, very complicated situation.
So what do you got going on this weekend, Cam?
This week?
Yeah, you out painting anything? Or you're just going to relax? You got a Super Bowl party? What are you doing?
Never really ever relaxing except when I'm sleeping. But I'm getting ready to start a mural over at Legends Boxing Club over on Howard Avenue. And I think that is going to kind of be like a shift in my work, because I don't typically work, at least as of late, I have not worked on a large scale with like men figures, masculine figures, these like fighters, powerful, not that they need to be a man to be powerful, but like these power stances. And so I'm really interested to see how I am going to filter that through myself and then put it out and then give it to the world. So
well, you filter it through Angela Davis. Angela Davis on your shirt there looks like a powerful person. Yeah. Who is Angela Davis?
Like one of my idols. I'm so glad that my dad's parents are amazing too, but my mom's mom and dad were really instrumental in giving my sister and I a sense of pride, a sense of history, a sense of it's okay to
respecting
be black.
Yourself.
It's okay to be like, and because when you're young and there's like you go to school and kids are like, well, why is this and why is that? And my grandparents, we would go there on the weekends and it would be like, no, this is good. Like this is what you're supposed to be.
What do you mean? Why is it like? Why is your skin different? Why is your hair different? Is that
skin, nose, hair, lips, like these things that come up in school when you're growing up, when you may or may not be like the only black kid on the playground or in the class or in a certain environment, and then kind of being young and not necessarily completely comfortable with it, and then questioning these things. You know what I mean? So there was always that sense of like, going back to this place and this house, it was a very safe zone. Our parents were a safe zone too, but being able to go and just be around those
influences.
Really, yes, strong influences. You know what I mean? Like. So
what do you think? I don't know if you saw the news yesterday or not, but the new Black Panther movie that's coming out is exceeding right now. It hasn't set records yet, but it is exceeding the pre-sale tickets. Mm-hmm. Is topping every superhero ever made so far.
I I think that's amazing.
I'm super excited about it.
Me too. Like,
super excited.
The only because I'm literally working on a commission for like a bachelorette party thing, and so like it's been my head down for the past like 2 or 3 days. But I did get a chance to see the red carpet, you know, with people coming to that event and being just super regal and super opulent, and you know what I mean, even that creating a buzz about the movie, through this kind of revolution of people taking back their power, whether you're black, whether you're a woman, whether you're, you know what I mean,
whether you're a middle-aged man with a tie on.
Right.
That too, exactly. Yeah.
And we saw this last year with Wonder Woman when that came out.
Yep.
And this whole, you know, woman, you know, now it's, you know, this, you know, she's such a great superhero, and now we're going to see it with Black Panther, with the black movement. It's so exciting what's happening right now. You know, and movies tell the story. Yeah. I think movies are telling the story of where we are as a culture, and I'm excited to see Black Panther.
Me too, big time. I feel like when you were asking me how do I feel about the political climate right now.
Put that mic on the other. There we go.
Better.
There we go.
Okay. It's all exciting because of all these things that are going on, and if you can, you know, look at things through a certain like point of view, like I mean, yeah, things are going to be kind of negative and maybe a little bit shitty sometimes, but like. We're always gonna make it. Hey, how are you?
Is Roy? It is warm in here. I gotta turn that.
It is warm.
Is Roy working downstairs on that project? He's still working on the guy. Yeah. Well, then you're gonna have to be our movie guru this week, okay?
Okay.
You know, Roy usually comes in here on Fridays and we talk some movies. So, have you seen any of the most recent movie you've seen?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I see so many. I did see The Post. That was awesome. I tried to see Winchester last night, and I was actually having a hard time getting a good seat. So that's come out. That's a new scary movie with Helen Mirren. The Post was amazing.
Wait, Helen Mirren?
Yeah. In
a horror flick?
Well, you know, I was reading more about it today. They're not calling it traditional horror. It's a true story. It's a house set in San Jose,
Hold on. You're going to give me goosebumps just describing it. I have a feeling.
Yeah,
based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
A true.
No, like a real true story. This woman actually existed. She's a gun heiress. She's an heiress to a gun fortune, basically. And this movie, and again, I haven't seen it, so I can't give too much, but from what I've read about it, this movie talks about the gun deaths and is protecting the gun victims within this house. And I think there's this kind of supernatural horror element to it. Of course, you've got the whole ghost thing. I haven't watched the movie, but it is technically in the horror realm. And of course, if there's a horror movie out, I go see it.
Same.
So.
Nice.
Same here.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yes. I go see them all. I just watched Jigsaw last night.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yes.
I really also want to see The Shape of Water. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I have not seen that. No.
Which one was that one? I know that got nominated for a lot and won a few things too, right? Yeah,
that's the one about it's not really horror, but it's about the sea monster that a woman actually falls in love with. And there's a whole controversial romance scene in the water, by the way. Did you hear about that?
A little bit, yeah.
So I haven't seen it.
Between her and the sea monster? Okay. No wonder it won an Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it win? I know it was not. Did it win some stuff?
I don't know I can't remember, but I know it was nominated.
Crazy nominated, yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, The Greatest Showman, by the way, I have to give a shout out to that movie because that was if you want to see a great musical, like the family, you know, take your wife, take your family on a date. The Greatest Showman was such a great movie.
I've only heard good things.
I love that movie. Loved it.
Are you guys watching the Super Bowl this weekend?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Rooting for anybody particular?
No.
I'm rooting for Janet Jackson to show up. Many questions surround Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl halftime show. One of the questions that has been on people's minds is, will Janet Jackson make a little appearance? I don't know if... I know you guys remember. I know you're old enough to remember.
Yeah.
Because that's been 17 years now.
So I have a theory. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
I feel like that was completely planned. I feel like that was planned down to this. I feel like I sound crazy right now, but
a lot of people thought the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like that was planned strategically because Janet was getting ready. If I'm not mistaken, she had just released an album or was getting ready to release an album that still didn't even do that well. But I feel like there was kind of this, let's see if we can get this buzz really. I just think it was too perfect to not be.
Yeah, and plus, you know, the whole nipple covering.
Yeah.
You know, how convenient.
Yeah.
You know, women, especially women, don't usually go around in those, and they would wear them in specific outfits. She had like plates on.
Yeah.
Like there was no reason for her to cover that part of her body.
Yeah.
Well, it changed. I was doing radio at the time. I did radio for 25 years, and it changed everything. That went down. Well, there's also something else that happened because here in the Bay Area too, like within a year or two after that, Bubba the Love Sponge ended up, getting some huge fine as well. I think it was, and so, but really, it didn't even matter because once that happened, like every radio station in the country that did not have what we call a dump button. You're on delay. It runs through a digital device and it backs up what you're doing. So, like if we had one here, then whatever we're doing, it would take 8 seconds to process or 10 seconds, whatever you set it for. And then if something goes down, like somebody says shit, you hit this button and you go live. So it takes that little buffer there and gets rid of it, and now you're just back live again. And then it slowly builds back up until you've got an 8 second, 10 second, 20 second, whatever it is delay. So every radio station and television station in the country after that went and got one of those. And then there was meeting after meeting after meeting with lawyers about what you can and can't say, and it was rough for a couple of years in the radio. And it changed everything.
Well, it changed the halftime shows.
Yeah.
After that, I was actually reading.
They're
I was
boring.
going. You know the time you can go through your timeline history. You know, back. I actually read. Oh my gosh! Somebody who's not a million years old is doing the halftime show, and that's what happened. Like they got real safe. It got very boring, and you know.
They wouldn't because MTV was the one that produced it, and they were out. And they started going with whoever, Oldie Olderton.
Well, I think my favorite halftime show ever was NSYNC, Britney Spears, and Aerosmith.
That was here.
Yeah,
that was in Tampa.
That was like, you know, and then the Nipplegate happened with the whole, and then it kind of.
Here's what I'm hoping. I hope Janet Jackson shows up. I hope she's there.
Yeah.
And we're all like, they're gonna pull out the other nipple. They're gonna expose the other nipple, and then they're like setting it up, and in that moment she reaches over and grabs whatever he's wearing, goes like, whoa, and like everything comes off, and then Justin Timberlake's just standing in a G-string, just standing there in a thong.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
It really would.
It'd make my wife very happy,
and that would take the whole thing full circle.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Anything else, you guys? The other news that I have here, we're not going to talk about. We got the. Let's see here. Well, no, I guess we could talk about this. Yeah, here's what we're not going to talk about. Ready? Punxsutawney Phil saw his show. So I'm showing news. Hold on.
Oh, whoa!
I thought you were talking about that. I was like,
no, we're going to come. We are going to talk about that. We'll come back to that. But I don't want. I guess I. So Punxsutawney Phil sees his shadow, predicts 6 more weeks of winter. At the same. No. Let's talk about that. Because at the same time that I'm excited about the times that we live in and the technology and the advances and everything, you also look and you see the folkiness and the legends and the mythology and
the history.
The other part of us that goes way, way back.
Yes.
Because we're still, it's 2018 and we're still pulling a rat out of a hole.
Yeah.
And going,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, buddy. I got Phoebe up and I'm talking your language now, Phoebe.
This one's Adele. My one's Phoebe.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
my
right.
one's Phoebe.
I was like, that's a cute name for her.
That's my Phoebe. Yeah, no.
It's twice I've done that to you now, Cam.
It is.
So when he first came in here, Alex, he brought in a couple of paintings, and I'm looking up at one of the paintings here, which is very well done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to buy that from you because my wife is a huge Taylor Swift fan. And go on and on and on. And he was just rolling. Oh yeah, great, that's awesome. This, and this. And then Jonny finally chimes in and goes, "That's not Taylor Swift, man. That was it was Michelle Pfeiffer from Pulp Fiction."
Oh no.
Yeah, it was Michelle Pfeiffer from Scarface.
Scarface.
But But it was okay because it was my first time, and I was like, maybe he's talking about something. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's art, man. I get to interpret it however I want, man.
It's your world. It's your world. Yeah,
it's your world.
But and I've had this conversation before too. When we're talking about the times that we live in, because we're look at where we are, how advanced we are as humanity. Well, yeah, but look at it. We have to look at us more like a comet. Not at this one thing, like, well, yeah, so we are capable of, A, B, C. I mean, this is where we are. We're this far advanced. I'm like, yeah. But go to the end of that comet. Go down towards the tail there, and we still live in a time where we have this kind of stuff going on, this folklore stuff going on. You have, and then even to the next level, stories coming out of parts of the world where, and this is India. This is like, I'm not talking about the big cities in India, but. So a girl loses her cell phone. So this is a great part of the story because you got the technology part of it, the aspect of it. She can't find it, so she goes to the witch doctor, who tells her to go kidnap a baby, bring it back, and we will sacrifice the baby, pull it into pieces, do whatever it is that they do, and we'll get your cell phone back. And to me, I know you're shaking your head like that is a horrible, tragic story, and it is.
Yeah.
But if you take a step back and kind of look at humanity and in this time that we're living in, how that is bringing what we once were, going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and bring it to who we are now. Right. But the reality is humanity is both of those things at the same time.
Yes.
And so that's why I like to use that comet analogy. You look like whatever's at the front of that comet is the modern technology and advances and breakthroughs and da-da-da. But take that tail goes back light years in some comets, light years.
Yep.
And
it's so important. I think it's just such an important part of who we are. And I love Punxsutawney Phil. I love the idea of it.
Yep.
I love a whole bunch of people standing around in the freezing cold watching a groundhog. Like, it's stressful times right now. Things are hard. I know we talk about, the economy and things, some people are very happy, but overall, I think that, people are still working hard. We're still trying to make a living, and it's a stressful time, and we need a groundhog to tell us if we're going to have winter.
Yes.
I think
fully
we
agree.
do. That's kind of the magic of the world that we live in, and if we kind of take away all of that, what's fun anymore?
I don't know that I am saying take it away,
right?
But just as we're sitting there and trying to understand us more, understanding that part of us more too.
Yes.
Why it's so important that we have the Punxsutawney Phil. Now at the same time, obviously, I just shared with you a horrible.
Right.
Tragic story concerning mythology and and stuff like that too. But okay, and you would only have to go all the way around the world. I was telling this story to a friend of mine who is a stand-up comedian, and his opener, the guy that's opening up for him, was off the tour for a short period of time because his energy was off, and he had gone back home to Miami, Florida, the United States of America, not the backwoods of somewhere. And went back home because his grandmother or something like that is some kind of a voodoo doctor too. And so he went to get this where she's cutting up chickens and there's chicken blood and there's this performing ritual so that he can get out of the funk that he's in. So again, this is even in the industrialized world and the world that have all these advancements. We still have those things in our head that there's still a connection with something. And if we do the right things and make the right sacrifices and cast the right spells, that things will change for us. I don't know, just like I said, it's interesting times we live in. Sorry for bringing the conversation to a screeching halt. All right, here's one story we're not going to talk about. Fidel Castro's oldest son commits suicide. Sorry, it's always horrible. Let's move on to Chinese sex. Whoops, hold on. Whoop. Yeah. I don't want to get kicked off of Facebook. We've been doing really well. Jeez, I'm glad you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, you can see it in there.
Yeah.
But they can't see it out there.
I'm
sorry.
Oh my.
I'm sorry. I would love to show you, but I have a feeling that Facebook would catch this, or then I could get kicked off. So anyway, that's a story about not only sex dolls, which are a huge thing, or becoming a bigger thing, but these are smart sex dolls. That basically, so it's putting the AI technology into these sex dolls, and they can be your little Alexa for you. And so these robots can talk, play, and even do the dishes as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So Well, so back to the times that we live in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, there's the upside and the downside to the times that we live in.
Well, I just said that women don't need a man to have a baby, or and
Literally.
so I guess men don't need women anymore. We all just need to do our own thing.
Well, listen, you guys, it is Friday, and I don't want to hold you up. I'm getting hungry. I'm ready for some lunch. I don't know about you guys.
I'm definitely getting.
I'm ready for some lunch.
I'm ready for some lunch. So let's wrap things up. And thank you so much, Alex Wilkinson, for coming in.
Thank
it
you
was
so
really
much.
cool to meet you. It's I want more and more stories from people like you and Cam Parker who are living life, basically.
Thank you.
Who are living life to the fullest, or at least on the outside, the way we perceive your lives. You are living life to the fullest. You might be crawling into a hole in the middle at night, crying yourself to sleep. But as far as it looks on the outside, you guys are.
Life is good.
It's good.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming by the show today.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah,
thank
nice
you
to meet
all.
you.
Thank you all for being part of the show. Once again, have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your Super Bowl. Again, be safe. I know these days a lot of people are staying home instead of heading out, which is probably a good thing. So have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday.